Castle of Castle does. Subnautica, really close to the release of the game. And at this point, I'm looking at the amount of batches that I have left, and I'm like, okay, man, I really gotta step it up and get more in place. And I do, but after a while, your brain starts twitching when you're placing boxes and spheres. You just start going in this weird, like, mode. Which is what happened. I'm just like, oh god. Oh. And in each of the spawn points do take a little bit of thought. You can't just like, oh, this shouldn't take that long to do. But you do have to think about it. Like, is this a crash cave or is it a regular creature cave? Is it both? What is there anything special that I could do with this area to make it differentiate from the other caves? Would it feel right as a crash cave? Does it feel? And the other thing that drives me crazy about this, actually, not to interrupt myself, is coming back to an area and realizing that I missed a bunch of stuff, and I'm like, what the hell? I was here. I spent like 3 freaking hours in this area looking for this, and there's a grouping of mushrooms that I didn't see before, and I could have put some quartz next to it. It happens. At least some of the areas are simpler, but the starting area is like porous. There's so many things going on at once. But I guess that's just gonna, just toughen up, man. Man up. You're just gonna have to deal with it. There's gonna be more mushrooms. So here's a weird sequence right here. I decided to put a grouping. I ended up seeing this in the feedback too, like on one of the forums. Somebody mentioned it. I put a whole bunch of crash fish, and then copper. Crash fish are protecting copper, by the way, but which will translate to crash fish protect valuable items. Copper being a valuable item, but there's more. They'll end up being more than that. Chances are, if you see a crash fish cave, or I'm supposed to just call them crashes. I keep forgetting about that, but I've been calling them crash fish over and over again. They're not called crash fish; they're called crashes. If you see a crash cave, there's probably something of value hidden in that area. I mean, you're risking your life to get to the area. There are obviously some spots where that's not true, but I try to make sure that there's something of value in a crash cave. I usually see it. Oh no, did I get distracted? I don't remember what I was just talking about. So, uh, okay, reset. There's a cool area. Put something of value. I didn't put any crash. No, the crash are on the other side of this cave here. Not right there. Yeah, there's mostly just regular creatures that kind of hang out. Oh, there's some crash actually now. Not only that, the crashes are cute too, man. They're gonna kill you. They're gonna be cute at the same time. Really, seriously. I find them freaking hilarious, actually. Start moving up. At this point, I'm starting to think about the sand sharks, where they belong, and we ended up having a really good meeting on Monday talking about what all of the danger fish, the obstacle fish will be like. They're not really they're dangerous, but they're really not. They're not supposed to necessarily be like dangerous, um, or even obstacles per se, but they end up being that way, and there's really nothing much that we can do about it either way. But they should really just be part of the environment as a whole, and just creatures that are doing their own things. But there's something that the player ends up interacting with. So I don't know. It ends up just either being a game of semantics of whether or not I should just call them obstacles, but I don't know if it's a good idea to think of them as just obstacles. Whoops. I went in a hip chat. So anytime there is rocky sand, so if you see any sand, there'll be spawn points that are sitting there. That's one of the other things about the spawn points. Is one of the reasons why going with more specific places to specifically named spawn points that go in specific locations is because it'll be more logical to the player as well. See, if I can look in an area and determine exactly where all of the loot spawn points go, uh, if I can do it as a designer, the player will pick up on that when they're in the environment. Oh, if there's sand over here, I always know that there's going to be uh, quartz or zinc. I know where to look to find these. That's one of the main reasons why there's actually like a list of like 4 or 5 reasons why I feel that the specific named spawns should go in specific locations. But one of them is exactly that, to make it so that it's consistent to the player. That if you find us, if you look at one of those big kelp stalks, if you go to the bottom of it, you're likely to find limestone. So as a designer, it's not only easier for me as a designer to say, okay, I'm going to place limestone at the bottom of a kelp stalk, but it's not just going to be limestone though. It's going to be whatever we decide to make it at a later point. But you know what I mean. Like, hopefully explaining this properly. But being consistent with the player is a really big deal. I like when I play a game and I have a really solid idea of kind of like where to look to find stuff, and if it kind of gives the minerals like character of their own. I like that. I want that. I think that's something we should definitely strive for, even if it's going to be random, like randomly one of 4 things that can spawn in these locations. It's always going to be that same one of 4 things, because ultimately the way things I see going with this is that we're going to be adding lots and lots of recipes and lots of ingredients, like regularly, fairly regularly. So you'll come back to an area after playing the game one time, download the latest patch, and see completely new things that are consistently spawning in the same spots. Right now it's not randomized. It's just one spawn point has one type of item. I just wanted to get everything in place. And it worked out pretty well. Um, so, and a couple episodes ago, I mentioned, every episode lately, I just mentioned how much stress is going on. But at this point, I'm starting to get stressed because of the caching system and not knowing how to deal with it. I start getting worried about it because every time I play test the game, if I play the game, none of my changes actually occur. But if I load the editor, so I thought I lost work like multiple times. I'm like worried that I lost work, but in actuality, I didn't lose work. It's just that the game didn't recognize the changes because those files never were modified. The files that the game actually pulls from, which are super optimized. So I ended up like at this point I didn't know how to solve the problem, but I pushed on anyway to try and make sure that there's spawn points in place and that things can work. But in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, oh man, I hope I'm not like, what's going on with this? How do I make sure this isn't working out, uh, you know, poorly, and that all my changes are actually going to make it in when the game comes out. And then I start also thinking about, well, what if this is bad? Like, what if the changes I'm making right now are causing problems, and I only have like so much time to fix them because of this problem? Like, uh, stress is like the most useless thing. It's so useless. Just, uh. I also had to do a lot of fixing too. All of the creature spawns were a single generic spawn, and I made a decision to remove. You saw it right there. If you rewind the video and pause it, you'll see I made the decision to remove all generic spawns. The reason why is generic spawns don't tell me anything. I'm going with specifically named spawns for many different reasons. So any spawn point that says generic in the name, gone. Don't want them. They don't belong in this game. They're never going to be used. If they exist in any of the other areas, I'm cutting them. I want the spawn points to be a description. The name of the spawn point is the description of where it goes. Things were moving along at a pretty nice pace. I still haven't added any sand sharks. So where are the sand sharks? So, did I add sand sharks on this day? Can't remember if I did or not. I think I was just getting ready to add sand sharks. I think I ended up figuring out how to get around the caching problem once the sand sharks went in. I think that's there you go, sand shark, sand shark, another sand shark, another sand shark. These guys are gonna be scary. Well, I don't know what they're gonna be yet. My thoughts on the sand shark are that they are kind of like creepers in Minecraft combined with reavers from World of Warcraft. They sort of Hellfire Peninsula, right? I think I'm naming that correctly, where it's like you have these monsters that you obviously want to avoid them, but they can kind of creep up on you. You'd never expect it, and like if you're just not paying attention, and boom, scary moment. Now I have to be scared of these guys again. I kind of want them to be like that. You know how like when you're playing Minecraft, you're not thinking about creepers for a little while, and one just fucking ends up behind you. Yeah, that's kind of what I want them to be. I don't know though. The rest of we may end up having like even better ideas, but that's my thoughts on it so far. That's what I'm imagining. Well, I guess we'll have to see what happens. Thank you for watching.